What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be replacing the chain and sprockets on my 2009 Suzuki V-strom 650. We're going to try to remove the old chain and rivet the new master link with this cheap Amazon chain breaker slash riveting tool I found. Didn't get real good reviews, but we're going to give it a shot, see if it works out. Hopefully everything goes well. We're not throwing this thing across the yard by the time we're done. So let's get into it. All right, what you're gonna need to complete the job, you need the rear sprocket. That's a 47 tooth for stock gearing on a V-strom 650. This is a JT brand. It's gonna run you about $30 to $35. I chose to go with the RK chain. It's 525 the size. You're gonna need 118 links if your V-strom is 07 or newer. I think it's 116 links for 06 and back. This is actually a 120 link chain. So we're gonna have to use this tool to cut the chain and do the rivets on it on the master link. This is the tool I picked up off Amazon. It's about 25 bucks. I think you can find some that's a little bit cheaper. They didn't get real good reviews, so it's gonna be extra careful and hopefully it does the job, fingers crossed. You're gonna need a 15th, 16th wrench or a 24 millimeter. That's for your axle nut. 5 millimeter Allen key. That's for your chain adjustment. 14 millimeter socket or wrench, that's for your back sprocket nuts. It's an 8 millimeter to take off your side cover on your front sprocket. 32 millimeter socket on a 650 for your front sprocket, and a grinder. We'll show you what that grinder's for in a minute. And that's all the tools you're gonna need. Also, you're gonna need a front sprocket, but I didn't replace my front sprocket, but I'll still show you the process of how I went about doing that. All right, so what you're gonna have to do to get to your front sprocket is you got to take this cover off right here. It's just a 8 millimeter bolts. There's 1, 2, if you can see that, and 3 down in that hole right there. Just take those 3 bolts out and that cover will come right off. Over there is what it looks like with the cover off. Like I said, it's just 3 8 millimeter bolts. There's your sprocket. The thing you'll have to take off if you're replacing this front sprocket, like I said, mine's new already. It's only got 130 miles on it. But you'll have to take this right here off. This is your clutch actuator, I guess what you call it. It's 10 millimeter bolt, 10 millimeter bolt. Just pull that off. Be real careful because the spring and stuff will come off. It just slides right off there. And you can, I just zip tied mine up out of the way up here and just let that dangle. That's a 32 millimeter nut there. If you can see, if I can get you real close, see that how it's bent over right there? You just got to bend that up and that's what holds it in place. You can take an impact gun, which is probably a lot easier, but I just took that big pull bar that I showed you right there. It's that big pull bar, that 32 millimeter socket on it, and I put me a piece of wood. Well, I added another extension. I had another pull bar. I wrapped it up in a cloth, stuck it right through the swing arm, and you let that spoke of that wheel right there, let it touch on there, and that'll hold it for you in place so you can break that nut loose. Never put your transmission in gear when you're breaking that nut loose because it can break gears in the transmission. It's not meant for that torque. So put something in that back wheel. You can get somebody to hold the back brake, but if you're doing it solo, like probably, or a lot easier, just put something through that wheel, break that nut loose, flip it around the other way, put something in the wheel the other way, and you can tighten it back up. But never put the transmission in gear. So that's how you replace the front sprocket. All right, one thing I forgot to mention before we take this chain off, before you replace your chain, replace the front sprocket first. Do not take your chain off, because that's how you, that back wheel, when you put something through there to hold it, that's what's going to hold that front sprocket from turning. Like, so let's get taking this chain off. What we're going to do on this, use a grinder. I'm going to go to the master link. It's already on there, the riveted master link, if you can see that. Don't try to push these pins out with your tool. It's one thing I heard about these Amazon tools. Don't try to push that pin out flush like that with it still knocked over. Grind that thing down flush, then use that tool to knock it out. So let's try that. All right, there it is, grinded flush, and we're just going to use that tool to push that pin out. All right, from what I understand on this Amazon tool here, you got your pin there. That's to push out your master link pin. I mean, not, yeah, or any pin on the chain to break the chain. You take this spring right here, if you can see that, slide it over that. Take this back push bolt out, put that in there just like that. Just like I said, just drop that pin in there. Take your push bolt, put it back in there. Just run that out till it's about like that. Right there is, from what my understanding, like I said, it's the first time using this tool, so we're gonna learn this together. And that just gives it, just spring loaded like that. Just leave it about that much hanging out. You also got a handle. I don't know if you really need it or not, but we're gonna put it on there. Assemble your handle just like that, screw it in the bottom. You also don't even need a wrench. They come with a little pull handle right there to tighten it up. So we'll see if this works, and be real careful not to break anything. And that's all you got to do. You just got to put your make sure that pin is straight with the pin that's in there. There's a hole in this thing in the tool itself. And just from what I understand, you just got to be real careful and do it little by little. And if it ever binds up, reset it and go from there. Don't keep on forcing it, because it'll break the actual pin that pushes the chain apart, from what I understand. So like I said, we're learning this tool together. This is the Bearded Grump. We the learning channel, the motorcycle learning channel. We don't pay people nothing. Have to do it yourself, save yourself some money. Already costs enough as it is. Use that tool, push your pin out. You have to do the same thing to get, you have to just take this chain off. You might have to do some little finagling, because that pin's always still probably locked onto that back plate. Just pull that pin out, let your chain fall off. And all you gotta do is pull your chain out once you get, like I said, replace that front sprocket first. Just drop your chain out of there. That's all we gotta do on this one now. We'll grind that pin the same. That one little pin right there, push that pin out, and then we'll have the identical chain. Then we can hook our master link back up. That's all we gotta do. If you ever wanna do this without a tool, this is what I used to do on dirt bikes. You can take this pin right here, grind it all the way down, grind this pin all the way down, take your flat blade screwdriver and go in there and you can pry that plate off. You can cut your chain just like that too. I've never really used the chain brake much. And the riveting part of your master link, that's where the tool actually comes in, because you got to have it to rivet that back together. But you can actually break that without the chain brake. But we'll try it with the chain brake. That way you can get the whole idea of doing it the proper way. So let's get on to that part. We didn't film the grinding part, but you can see, just grind that pin down flush. No safety glasses, no gloves. That's why my hands are all damn dirty. All we're gonna do is use that same tool, push that out. We'll show you when that process is done, because you already seen it once. The same process, taking it off, breaking this chain. All right, little tip on this tool. We got the chain broke, if you wanna see that. It's done. It's ready to go back on the bike. We got to replace the rear sprocket first. Fixing to show you that in a minute. But just breaking the chain off the bike and breaking the new chain, that pin's got bent already. So we're gonna try to beat that out. Hopefully the rivet tool is a little bit better, and at least get this one master link riveted. So I guess the tip of the day on this one is, you probably can get through one chain putting it on the bike with this cheap Amazon tool. But if you're gonna do it a lot, I guess buy a name brand one, which is about $80 to $120. This one's 25 bucks, so I didn't expect much. Hopefully it'll get through riveting the chain. That's the main part. We're gonna beat this part, get the back wheel off. All right, this is the old sprocket. That's actually a JT2. The new improved JTs are freaking badass, if you ask me. But there's two ways. There's a groove way, if you can see that close. It's a groove on there, a flat side. The flat side goes towards the wheel. Simple as that. Put your bolts back on. I don't know the torque specs. I'll look it up. Probably add some text to the video, let you see that, because I don't know. My torque specs is snug it up with your hand till you think it feels right. But I'll look it up and put that in the video for you. You can go by the real torque specs if y'all want to do that. You can get this bolted back up now. All right, now all we're gonna do, take your chain. Ain't got no direction, so it don't matter. Just take your chain and feed it on there. However you can get it on there. Cuss a little, throw some shit, whatever. Whatever the process may be. Just gotta get your chain on there. Feed it through to your front sprocket. And we'll hook the master link up. All right, so there's no way you're gonna be able to get that on there. So you just take these things. And yeah, you might can count how many times you're backing them out. Back them all the way, or back them out a good bit. Slide your wheel forward until you got enough play to hook that master link up. So, all right, your master link comes just like that with your 4 O-rings for your O-ring chain. Comes with a little bit of grease. Want to grease these pins. Grease these O-rings on both sides before you push it through there. That way it's just got the same amount of lubrication because it's dry. And you don't want to leave all that grease on your chain either. And I don't think there's no right way to do this. Just grease them. Because you're going to lube your chain and stuff too, from my understanding. So just put some grease on there like that. On that pin too, so it'll slide through. Just put it together. All you gotta do is slide your master link in with your O-rings on the back. And just take your 2 O-rings on the front. Put your little grease on them. Smash them up on there. We got plenty of lube. There you go. And you take your front plate. Make sure you got that pushed off. Your front plate, from the way I can tell, if y'all can see that, I don't see there's no right and wrong way, so your chain may be different. Check that. Just get that on there started by hand, and we have to set the tool up again to press this on here. All right, now for your little cheap Amazon tool to press that master link on the plate, just need this little piece right here. It goes in behind there. That's so it clears the pins. And you need the pressing plate. It's just a flat plate. And that's so them pins can go straight through there. So assemble it like that. Be real careful, I guess, not to push that off of there. And snug up against that plate and get to pushing. I got this part on here. It's a little bit pain with this tool. It don't line up just right. Just make sure when you're pressing that link on this outside plate that you're getting it pretty square. But what you need the calipers for, I have to take you around here to the back. Make sure you know how to use calipers, zero them out. But you want to measure, I measured at the pin. That's about 20, it's 20.12, just say 20. 20, now we got right here on the master link, 20, 20. So you just want to make sure that your master link area is the same as the rest of your chain. Now we'll set the tool up and flare that out. Set your tool up for doing your rivets on your master link. You need the anvil. It's probably the biggest size for a big bike chain. Put that on your other side. That's just gonna catch that other side of that pin from coming out, or so the link don't move. And you're gonna need your flaring, with your riveting pin. See, it's just got a little tip on the end. That's just gonna flare it out. Now what you want those flares on these pins to be, they're 5.1 now. You want to have a 0.5 of a flare. So these are 5.6. You're trying to get these from 5.1 to 5.6. Don't go far enough, your master link could come off. Go too far, them pins could crack. So like I said, you want 0.5 is what I've always heard. So that's what we're going to try to achieve. All right, now we're going to try to turn that. Just flare that pin. The name of the game for this, probably. Do a little bit, back it out, measure it. And we'll show you that measurement.
That's enough.
That's tight.
That's
I doubt that's nowhere near enough.
That's enough.
All right, we're gonna do that, then we're gonna measure it and see where it's at. I don't think it even flared at none, but we'll see. Like I said, I'll show you this pin right here. This is the brand new one, 5.16. So we're gonna call it 5.1. Now the one I just flared a little bit is only 5.2. It only flared at 0.1. So we need 4 more on that one. See, what you're trying to mimic is these pins. They're 5.6. So that's what you're trying to get these to. So let's flare it a little bit more. 5.6. That's your 0.5 of flare right there. So that gets them pretty. Them are 5.67. And this one's 5.61. So we're gonna call that good. And there they are. Both of them's flared. We measured them. This is 5.58 to 5.61. About the same here. So it's on there. How I adjust my chain, you can see down there, just take this chain, you barely push up on it with your finger until it touches that bottom rubbing little pad there. That's how I adjust mine. But you can read up the specs on that. I don't know exactly what they call for as far as slack, but that's how I do mine. That's how I've been running it. No problems. All right, well, there you go. That's how to replace the chain and sprockets on a 2009 Suzuki V-strom. Like I said, it'll work on a lot of different years. You can apply a lot of the same principles to a lot of different bikes as well. But front sprocket, mine was actually not that tight. I broke it right loose with that breaker bar. It was pretty simple. Like I said, look up your chain adjustment slack, however you do yours. That's how I just adjust mine. I'll look up the torque specs for you for like the rear sprocket and stuff like that. My take on the Amazon tool wasn't that good for breaking chains. The actual pin actually broke when I was breaking the chain. It got, well, it didn't break, but it was bent. So I wouldn't recommend it for that so much. It did great on putting the rivets on though, so I guess it's worth its 25 bucks. It got the chain done. I'll report back if the popping noise is still there or gone, but I think it's should be good to go now. So if you hadn't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll be alerted when new content comes out. And we appreciate y'all watching. We'll see y'all in the next one. From what I understand, ain't dropping in though. Ain't got it lined up. We'll cut that for a second. You can cut that off for a second.